for September 1st, 2015. We all join in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No, I'm not Todd Samuelson, but I'll try to do my best tonight. Item 1.2, setting of the agenda. Any changes, corrections?
We did. We have several different appointments and resignations that are in there, and a couple transfers. But the big thing is we're removing 2 items: consider adoption of reimbursement resolution and consider adoption of preliminary bond resolution. That will be on the agenda for next month instead of this month.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion to set the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Those in the audience, anyone in particular would wish to address an item on the agenda this evening, or are we all here to do presentation?
Laura Pryor, I do have a question with what was removed. So we're not going to do the consideration of the bond approval, but we're still going to do item 3.7, consider architect contingent on bond approval?
Yes.
Okay, I may have some clarifying questions then on that.
And 3.7?
3.7, yes.
Anyone else? Item 2.0, consent agenda. Anything there that anyone wishes to pull out and discuss? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Item 3.0, business transactions. 3.1, focus on learning, Webster Elementary.
Yes, we have Carrie McGuire and her 3rd grade team here to share some things they've been doing in science. Carrie? We have 3 third grade teachers, Mrs. Bechtel, Mrs. Nguyen, and Mrs. Price, as well as 3 of our 3rd grade students here to talk a little bit about the SLED program at Webster. So we have, you guys, they're a little nervous, Brandy Wilson, Trey Dow, and Sophia Neat here to talk about SLED.
We thought it was important to explain to you some of the similarities between Project Lead the Way and the SLED design, because they're very similar. In fact, when we started the first SLED design, which was an inquiry activity to get the students kind of involved in cooperative learning and understanding the design process, they right away said, is this like Project Lead the Way? So we wanted to kind of explain the steps and how they're similar. So our first step in the SLED design is to identify the problem. So the students are looking at the real world problem, they're dissecting it, figuring out what is the problem, who is our client, and then we write all of that down in our design notebooks. And then our first step in Project Lead the Way is ask. So the students respond to these questions in their launch log. What is the need or the want that we are trying to fulfill? What will make the design solution successful?
Step 2 in the SLED design is share and develop a plan. The students individually generate possible ideas or solutions through sketching using what they know about the problem, as well as using their scientific knowledge through inquiry activities in their design notebook, always keeping in mind the design scenario, which we'll touch upon here in a little bit. This is called the individual design. Trey, do you have your design notebook? Would you pass that around? And make theirs to Mr. Pinkerton. You can hand it and they can look at their design notebook. Look at your design notebook. Then the students share their ideas and sketches within their design teams that we put together, and they mutually agree upon one detailed plan and a solution. This is called the group design. So once they get their individual design, we group them together. They share their design. They decide whether they like one component of each student's design, or maybe they like one student's total design. Then they have to mutually agree upon that and draw their group design. And then we have to sign off as teachers. They have to come and explain it, and then we sign off as teachers. Step 2 in Project Lead the Way is explore. Each student uses the skills and knowledge he or she gains from the PLTW activities, as well as any outside information he or she has to help their group, design the best solution through sketching in his or her launch log. Then the students discuss and share their ideas within their team and add any additional ideas to their sketches.
Okay, step 3 in SLED is to create and test. This is where the design teams come together and create and test their plan or model. And during this process, the emphasis is given to recording results from testing and using existing scientific knowledge to explain what is happening. And then with Project Lead the Way, the third step is to model. So the students compare their solutions that their team generated during the Explore step, which is what Mrs. Huyen just explained. They choose one design or develop a new design that combines the best features of what they all created.
Step 4 in the SLED design process is communicate the results and gather feedback. So the design teams test their prototype or design to see the results, and they also share their ideas with the entire class to gather feedback. And in Project Lead the Way, step 4 is evaluate, where they test their design and record the results in their launch log, and then they also complete a self-assessment.
And then our last final step in SLED is to improve and retest. How will we improve the solution? What are the results of the retest? So on our lifeguard chairs, a couple of the students brought theirs. They actually had to set a Beanie Baby on the lifeguard chair and has to sit there for 20 seconds. That's our testing. And then if it does, that's a successful result. And then the final step in Project Lead the Way is explain. And the students will present the design to the class. They will also share their evaluations and suggestions for improvement of the prototype. So you can see, even though there's a little bit of difference in vocabulary, they're very similar in the steps that we take.
The client is the person who is paying you to make the design or prototype. The problem: why does the client need you? What has happened? Thank you for letting me consider it. The goal is to create a solution by making a design. Our goal of the activity was to create a lifeguard chair to meet public safety codes. We used tape, paper, and index cards. The chair had to be at least 35 centimeters tall. These were our criteria or rules of the design.
Constraints are the desired features of the design or prototype. The end user is who will use the final design or prototype.
The lifeguard chair. Our client was the safe stance company.
Let Mrs. Huyen read.
Here is the scenario that we put up on our screen as well, and we read to the students. The local authorities have recently decided to open a privately owned swimming pool to the public. A grand opening ceremony is currently being planned, and the town safety inspector has ordered that lifeguard chairs be constructed so the swimming pool is up to public safety code. These new lifeguard chairs must be completed before the pool can be open to the public. You have just been hired by the Safe Stands Company to design and construct lifeguard chair models in time for the grand opening ceremony. The chairs must be sturdy enough for the lifeguards to sit on and must be tall enough for them to patrol everyone at the pool. Then the criteria and the constraints are listed. So, Randy?
The lifeguard chair. Our client was a Safe Stance Company. The problem was to make a chair that's sturdy enough, tall enough for the lifeguards to patrol the water. It was fun to build the lifeguard chair. I learned that we make mistakes sometimes. It was a great project to work as a team.
For our constraints, we were only allowed to use note cards and masking tape, no other materials. Our end user was the lifeguard, which was a baby.
Let me conclude here with this little video.
We're going to build a lifeguard chair using tape and index cards.
the note cards into cylinders like that?
Because the light could fit in, so like if it's bigger.
Okay, go ahead and place it on there. Nobody touch the table.
It's okay.
What would you do differently next time? If you had more time, what would you do differently?
Add more legs, yeah.
Add more legs.
And then put me better, because we had it earlier, but so we put like some cards down in the bottom, so it's sturdy enough, and we put on the extra stick, so it's, because it was bending this way, and we put extra stick there, and then we put a ladder so we can get up there, and we put some armrests there. Like we can all put working together on this, and let's put together because we had two bones of it, and we made it really good. I brought it to work because I think we need to put more. It needs to be a little bit smaller, and I think we need it to make sure it can stand. So it needs like more things that can help us stand on it. I like working together in a group, and I learned that we sometimes have to work together to figure things out. I learned that sometimes you don't get a vote, but sometimes you do. I learned that scientists can get stuff wrong the first time, and that you can try again. I learned that to try your best and to not give up. I learned that with a team we can learn much, much more.
All right. Good job.
Does anybody have any questions for our students or our teachers? They knew that you might ask questions, so. Questions for them?
What was the hardest thing about your project?
The hardest thing was that the tape only had to be 5 centimeters long. It could only be 5 centimeters.
Well, they certainly did a good job.
Yeah, they
Great
did.
job. Are you in the same class? Were you in the same group?
No.
No, okay.
Different classes.
And so, did yours have your Beanie Baby for 20 seconds, Trey?
Ye-
That one did. How many people in the class actually had it stay?
About 5.
Really?
Can you explain why yours didn't work?
Ours didn't work because our back side was like too bent in, and it was like bended down in here. So next time we can probably like bend it more, like spread it more out.
They weren't allowed to cut the index cards. They can only fold them. So they
That was
had
the
to figure out a way to do that. That was the hardest part you
The
thought?
hardest part was that when we was building it, we only had to use index cards and tape. It was really hard at first, but then we got it.
Great.
All right,
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
Good job.
Now, you're all welcome to stay and enjoy the meeting.
It's a school night.
I understand. Item 3.2, permission to hire.
Yes, Mrs. Hershey manages our Title III and our migrant grants. Actually, it's not a migrant grant anymore, but the state ESL grant. And she found that she had room in her budget to hire a teacher. And when we looked at the numbers, the high school had the largest number of ESL students per teacher. And so the decision was made that we would hire someone to be a second ESL teacher at the high school. It'll be completely paid for with grant money.
Great. I would so move.
Second?
I'll second.
Discussion.
It sounds like a great idea.
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And we're still on 3.3.
3.3.
Okay, 3.3, resolution for indemnification.
Yes, basically that means to insure. And so this is for our former director of safety. And had a situation where he had to have an attorney. He was exonerated from the charges. So the board policy says that in order to pay for the $812 for the attorney fee, the vote has to vote on the resolution here.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Item 3.4, acknowledge teacher's background for licensure.
Yes, you know, we hired Scott Michael, and he has been given a license to teach. However, he teaches 2 dual credit classes. One of them, he was able to get the dual credit. The second one for renewable energy. The board has to acknowledge that he is not, does not come to us with a teacher's license. And so I thought it'd be best to just come in and acknowledge that in a public meeting, so that all the board is aware of that, and then we can send the minutes down to Indianapolis, and they will give him a license to teach the dual credit renewable energy class.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Questions?
With this approval now, does this give him that temporary license to?
Gives him a license that he can continue to use, yeah. He'll have to
I
go.
know he has a background.
Right. He'll have to go probably for some training, but it allows us to move forward with the process. And the kids who were taking the class because they were going to get dual credit, they'll still get the dual credit.
Anything else? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 3.5, consider Michiana behavioral health care contract for 2015-2016.
This is just an annual renewal of our contract with BHC. We serve as the local education agency for the students who are placed there, and this just details our agreement to work with them.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Do we hire the teachers or do they hire?
We hire the teachers, yep, and we supervise the teachers, work with them, and provide some materials for the students as well. So
Do we have more than one teacher out there?
we have an elementary and a secondary teacher.
Okay. Do we have any idea how many students went through there last year?
It varies depending on the day and month, but I would say on average we are around 24 students total.
Anything else? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 3.6, new and revised policies and guidelines, first reading.
So this is the first reading. A lot of them that you'll see there are duplicate just based on the category of the policies, whether it's for professional staff, classified staff, things like that. You see some policies there relating to conflict of interest that just reflects some changes that were made in statute. Most of these reflect changes that were made in statute. There are a couple that are language adjustments as well. Bring this back next month for the final approval.
Okay.
Happy to entertain any questions now or next month as well.
See it on the table? Or do we need any action?
Just if you're reading through them and you have questions, just give us a call so we can research and get you an answer.
Okay, item 3.7, consider architect contingents on bond approval.
Yes, we have with us tonight Joseph Bezerla, and he is with his own firm in South Bend, and we would like to get your approval contingent upon the bond that we can hire Joe to help design the additions to this building and the entrance and the pavilion and remodel of the old building out at the football field. He has a ton of experience in commercial buildings, medical buildings, hotels, some schoolwork, but this is not classroom schoolwork, so it seems to be right up his alley. Dave has worked with him. I've worked with him. I think he's got great ideas, and I think he brings a lot to the table. Joe, have a seat, or stand up, please, so they know who you are.
If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. We're a group we started in 1986, so we're pushing up 30 years. As I think I told Dave and Dan that we've kind of done everything but a library. So for whatever reason, pretty much do small work, do large work. Done 7-story buildings, up to 330,000 square feet. So we're not too foreign to Plymouth. I was telling these guys a little bit this evening that did some work at St. Michael's for the addition there, and also helped out Ollie at Plymouth Westland. So I started out doing school work actually with a firm years ago, and kind of just branched off on a little bit different breed of architecture. I actually worked as a superintendent for about 8 years at a construction company, and then took over their design build department and started up in 86. So we're honored to be here and provide you with our best efforts. We're a small group, there's 4 of us. My staff's been with me for a long time, some as long as 20 years, so we're latest technology, and hope it works out, but we can do some other work. It seems like a good fit, so.
You get a motion a second for floor to address this?
So moved.
Second.
Did you want to address this item?
I'm not sure if it falls with this or maybe goes to the next meeting with the bond. I just had a couple clarification questions since the project was introduced and the bond was introduced last meeting. It has to do with the buildings. Is the administration building structurally strong and we're just looking at adding space? And when it comes to the football field, again, is it structurally strong? Or are we looking at replacing aging stairs and bleachers that are needed for safety?
In the administration building, we're structurally strong. We're just out of space, and so we're adding on to both ends. Right now, any storage that we have to go across the street and upstairs to store everything. So the east end will have a storage area upstairs, so people, the gals don't have to walk out and go across the street or ask Dave to move boxes over and then move boxes back. And we have absolutely no storage here. The football field, everything that we're going to address out there is end of life. So, we're looking at, if we kept the bleachers, we'd probably have to put $80,000 of capital projects into it. They're 40 years old. It's time to replace them. The concession stand that's out there now, the big one with the restrooms, it just was not built very well, and so we're gonna redo the structure. We probably use some of it, but not all of it. And the pavilion has no footers. If you go out there and get yourself a chicken sandwich, you can see the big cracks in it. And so really, everything's end of life, and it's a liability. If we don't replace it, we could have a mishap at any time. So.
And then the other clarifying question that I had, again, it may go with the bond approval next week, but is there a projected interest rate, and when that money is borrowed and it gets paid back, is that paid out of the general fund or another fund?
It all comes out of the tax dollars, so it doesn't come out of the general fund. And the projected interest rate, I don't know what happened with the feds this week, if they increased the interest rate or not. But the interest rates have been pretty low. I would hate to tell you exactly what it is. We're not going to know that until we sell the bonds.
Okay. The interest rate will be paid out of those tax bases as well, or? Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Is this, we looked at some possibilities at the last meeting that the young lady presented.
Yes.
Is this going to be a takeoff from those, or is that going to be?
Well, that's a start, that's a concept, and whatever our architect comes up with will have the same elements in it. They may look a little differently.
Right.
And then also, part of an architect's job is to make sure we're following code, and so, that's something that Cassie didn't have a background in, so there may be some changes. For instance, one of the things we talked about tonight was the square footage in here really requires another set of restrooms, and so we'll have to build that into the project.
Anything else? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Want to escape?
Appreciate it.
This
Thank
is
you.
the time to go.
Item 4, superintendent's awards.
Yes, commitment to students. I'd like to thank Mrs. Hershey. She was able to find the grant dollars to hire that second E&L teacher at the high school. This is much needed because of the high population of E&L students that we get, especially when we get E&L students that have not been in school before. It's really difficult. If we get E&L students at the high school that have started at one of our elementaries and gone all the way through, they don't need a lot of work, but it's the kids that come in brand new without being in the elementary schools. 4.2, caring, kudos goes out to Mr. Brown and Mr. Shove, the entire transportation and security departments for finding lost children the first couple of weeks of school. Especially at the beginning of the year, young students get very confused. Some of the kindergartners ride bus 38, they don't even know the number 38 yet. And some of them have a different bus that they take home every night because they're going to a different babysitter, different child care every night. Fortunately, we have the technology that helps us. We can go to the bus, we can see the child get off the bus, we know where they've gotten off, we know where the GPS coordinates are, and we can find students. So I say they're lost, but they're not lost very long before we know where they are. High expectations, great turnout this morning. Jackie Warlorski had a surprise convocation for Mr. Condon for his being named Indiana Principal of the Year. She presented him with a plaque that contained her speech on the House of Representatives floor, which is going to now be in the congressional record forever. 4.4, teamwork. This past July, the State Board of Accounts began a new ECA reporting requirement. We'd like to thank Chris McCann for working with each of the building secretaries to get that and go back in time and redo all of the ECA reporting for this year. It was a difficult job, and it was made easier because of the teamwork with Ms. McCann and the building secretaries. Integrity, 4.5. Big thank you goes out to Mrs. Sharp and Mr. Perkins for starting a club called Girls Who Code. This club taught young girls the basics of writing computer code and specializes in getting young women interested in this field. Oftentimes, young women are reluctant to get involved in clubs like this if guys are going to be involved too. Thus the reasoning for the all-girls club. And 4.6, enjoyment. This weekend, our students will be working at the Blueberry Festival booths and parking lots to earn money for their clubs and organizations. Just to give you an example, last year in the PHS parking lot, the clubs that ran that parking lot made over $60,000. The Blueberry Festival was a great opportunity for our clubs and organizations to raise money. Please help our students this weekend. Our couple of things, fall conference is September 27th. We are departing. I'll get with each of you to find out where you want to be picked up, or if you want to meet us here at 2 o'clock. We'll return on the 29th at 2:30, approximately 2:30, might be closer to 3. Also, the next board meeting is October the 6th at 7 o'clock here in the boardroom. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Item 5, other business. Any other items of business to discuss? Audience participation, item 5.1. Anybody want to address an item on the agenda? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn then.
So moved. Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.